Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Inner Conquest. I'm Jacob Edens, and today we're going to be discussing dimensional spacing. So when you have dimensional spacing, what that means is in your mental space, which you could call a fourth dimensional reality, right? Juxtaposed to a third dimensional reality, which is physicalized, right? You have different sectors of awareness. You're one being at all times. However, you can hyperfocus in and segment different allocations of awareness so that you understand where your most leveraged power points are when creating reality through using an internal locus of operation. So when you look at your mind, right, you have your I am awareness, which is the core of you. It's your unique soul identity. Within that dimensional space, you can push that out further into your mind, right? So if you go into observer consciousness, you're able to observe your mind, right? You look at Eastern teachers and things of that nature, and they always discuss, observe what's in your mind, don't react to it, etc. What that means is that your presence, your infinite potentiality can be summed up into the words I am, which is I exist, right? I have always existed. When you have further pushed out creative space, you have your mind, right? What are you doing? Oh, I'm working this out in my mind. I'm thinking. Well, let me think about that before I speak, right? So in that mental interplay, if you look at reality through the lens of water, right? You have subtle, which is if something was like water. Then you have gross forms of creation. Everything goes from subtle to gross, gross back to subtle. In the same way that if you had a bunch of water crystallize into a gross formation that is a glacier, that glacier will then melt and go back into the formless, right? So everything that you create in the physical world follows these principles, right? Because this is an inverted reality with things like decay and all sorts of stuff that doesn't exist on the other side. So what happens is if you create something, how you create that is you take your subtlest energies and you expel that out to their grossest manifested forms. The way that you consciously do that is by understanding that individualized awareness, your soul individual identity, can be formed and shaped through what it is identified with, right? So if you have your mental space under your control 24/7, then you control the reflections that get reflected back to you, right? So if there's a latency and a time delay between what you're thinking and feeling and what is reflected to you externally, then the most leveraged, powerful position point is right in that fourth dimensional mind space, and you can go into your fifth dimensional I amness and how those are interacting with each other. When those interact in a targeted, accurate way, you could call that righteous thinking, right? And the whole premise between sinning and righteous thinking is that it just means you're hitting your mark, right? So if you have a desire to have a certain relationship play out a certain way, or to have money come in a certain way, or all of these different things, right? You can apply the dimensional spacing to understand whether or not you're executing accurately or against yourself. So if you have your I amness, right? Say your goal is to be in a fit, healthy body, right? You think about your self-concept. Do you feel like a fit, healthy person? And if the answer is no, that's totally fine. But you want to break apart where the issue lies in the highest leverage position, because the highest leverage modality is the best one to execute on first because it swings the biggest doors, right? So take fitness and health and extrapolate that into full dimensional spacing. Fifth dimension, I amness. I know that I'm aware, infinite potentiality, right? Go into the mind. I am aware of thoughts and emotions. Internal, inner space, right? That's your inner space. Outer space is tactile, third dimensional world, right? So as you go throughout your day, you want to be mindful of the marriage between that fifth and fourth dimension. And if it's inaccurate, you want to do processes of revision and ensure that identity and those thought processes are accurately going into states of what are called wish fulfillment, right? So I'm fit and healthy, right? Let's role play here and say that I'm 700 pounds and I look like a beluga whale, okay? I start saying I'm fit and healthy. What is the issue? The external world doesn't reflect that, right? So if I take into context the upbringing I've had, right, where everything to me has been out of my power, out of my control, it has always been poor little old me in a world in which I have to grovel and make amends and do all of these different things to get what I want, or else I'm not going to be able to get what I want. I have to do everything externally. I got to show up for the job. I got to do the right diet. I got to do all these different things. And then if I'm good enough at it, then I get the reward of being that thing at the end, right? That's a paradigm of external inverted reality, okay? When you understand that dimensional spacing in the accurate way, right? I am identifies with mind, reflects third dimensionally. Once you have that telescopic type of view, your mind has been reoriented into a correct positioning. So I'm fit and healthy, but my current reality, I'm a beluga whale, right? I'm real big fish. Now I'm trying to be a tiny fish, a ripped up fish, jacked fish, whatever, right? I start going internally and I start marrying those thought patterns. I am fit. I am healthy. I am in this body. I am doing this, this, and this. The hiccup point will come when you defocus and refocus on third dimensional reality, right? You go and you look in the mirror and you go, oh my God, nothing's changed, right? The old programming that you've been raised with is what's causing that has to be let go of. Because if you look at the ability to create and reflect, the third dimensional reality is the tertiary, most latent point of creation. It is the grossest form of creation, okay? So if you want to make a sculpture, right, and you're making it out of ice, you can go and you can take the ice block and you can chip away at it and you can make an ice sculpture, right? Or you can have the mold and you can put the water in it and you can freeze it and have it be perfect what you want. Because every time, even if you're doing the ice block, every time you chip that ice block away, there's not more ice that you can put onto it. You can't create anything more from it. You can only reshape what's already been created. But if you have a mold that you fill with water and then it crystallizes, not only can you design the exact specifications of the mold, but you get infinite iterations as long as you stay focused to make sure that mold looks perfect. Whereas the ice block, if you just chip away at it, it's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller until you have less and less to work with, right? That perfectly sums up working exclusively third dimensionally without having the context of the more leveraged, powerful positioning that your mind can curate for you, right? If I don't think as if I already have something, then my energetic frequencies and personal magnetism will not align with people, places, and circumstances that match the desired frequency. So when you go internal, and throughout the day, you begin to mentally control your mind and just be aware of where it's focusing, and continually, anytime it plays out a mental scenario or has an unwanted thought, you just revise that as if what you heard was the way that you wanted it to be. What you're doing is you're calibrating that fifth and that fourth dimension to mold exactly the way that you want it to, in such that the third dimensional reality conforms to that molding, right? And the reason that you practice this and get really good at it is, number one, you understand your personal empowerment and your ability to shape and construct reality from the being that you really are, versus being a subject to reality in the way of being dictated by reality as consciousness, when consciousness dictates reality, right? So you're becoming the dictator of your reality. You're becoming the conscious creator of your reality. And the way that you do that is by first understanding that your I amness is formless and shapeless. It's you, right? You know it's you because of your unique soul signature. But there can be you as a chef versus you as a ninja, right? Like you can mold you into different iterations. So you're just simply taking unwanted iterations, primarily focusing on that fifth, fourth dimensional marriage, mind, I amness identity space, and you're revising them accurately as if they are the way you want it to be. And you have to go a little bit of a time delay where you don't look for results simply because the way that this reality is constructed is there's a time delay between that mental interplay and the external world. And what happens is we imagine things, we do all these things internally, we forget about them, and then they pop up, right? So we don't make that correlation or that connection. So making that correlation and that connection is large because you know that your primary work is that mental interplay between those two primary dimensions that you're really mastering. Because if you master that, you master yourself. And if you master yourself, you're always emanating accurate frequencies of what you want versus of what you don't want. And with enough steady momentum in that type of direction, you will get the physical manifestations that will then validate what you've been doing internally. And then you'll put yourself into a positive cycle versus a cycle of doing something proper, noticing the external isn't the way you want it, and then rinse and repeating, right? So that's how you break that cycle. So if you guys want to work with me, check out the link tree for different coaching. Additionally, the Spartan 1 Human Optimization Program. I have the free process and protocol if you just want to do the process and protocol. Additionally, I have the watch the full webinar first. If you want to work with me for the 1 month period, you can see the details at the bottom of the PDF as well as sign up for that on the link tree as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Go conquer, and I'll see you in the next one.